Okay, it's time. I know, long anticipated by not many people, but the sniper rifle tier list. I didn't think we were going to run into a whole lot of surprises with this list. This is the list that I expected to be the most straight to the point, everything as expected, and I was wrong. Right off the rip, we're going to have issues and things that I was not aware of. That we're going to have to factor in. We're talking about snipers. So what matters with snipers? The ability to take a good optic is a plus. Projectile speed is huge for tracking targets at range, especially moving targets on a horizontal plane. You want a high bullet velocity. Base accuracy is going to be very important, as well as base range. We're going to pull up 3 rifles all at once and get them out of the way, because there's a huge controversy here. So the Pioneer, the SSG 82, I think it's called, and the CR. All 3 of these are not sniper rifles, really. They're marksman rifles. They don't shoot a full-size rifle round, but if I don't include them in this list, someone will cry and be very upset with me. I just want to let everyone know they're not sniper rifles. They don't perform like the other sniper rifles in the game, but people will use them in a similar role. These are technically marksman rifles, and they're all surprisingly close. I'm guessing what you didn't know is that the SSG 82 on paper is technically better than both the Pioneer and the CR. Yeah, I didn't know that, but let's look at the stats. Okay, so like I said, on paper, the SSG 82 is better than both of these in almost every single way, and this is not something I knew. This was a big shock and surprise to me. It does more health and shock damage than both the Pioneer and the CR 527. It's even more accurate than both of these guns by not a small margin. It's more accurate than the Pioneer by like nearly 100%. And then 33% better than the CR 527. I think the accuracy there on the Pioneer is without the new optic that it can take and yada yada, but regardless of which optic either of these the other two can take, the SSG 82 is of course equipped with a scope, and it is a 4x PU style scope. Regardless of that, this does more shock and health damage than both of them. So we're in a tough spot here because the Pioneer, while it does do less health and shock damage, it can take a suppressor. And it is also, if you didn't know, it has the highest bullet velocity over any weapon in the entire game. So what do we do here? Because the only thing that you can really say bad about the SSG 82 is that the optic is not as nice as the optics you can get for the CR 527 or the optics you can get for the Pioneer. Other than that, it beats it out. It beats those stats out for both of those guns in like almost every way. So, and here's the tough truth that I'm gonna have to point out. So I've had about 8 servers now. Most shots are not that far. Most kills, even with snipers, are like 200 to 300 meters. Most people are not stretching out into the thousands. It's pretty rare that you have the opportunity to set up shots like that unless you're like staking out a base, trying to get someone at their combo lock, something like that. And honestly, if you run like the PU on an SKS and you like the PU, the SSG is actually just legitimately better than both of these guns. Within 200-300 meters, it's just going to be better. And I can't. Here's what we're going to do. So because the Pioneer can be suppressed and it has that super nice brand new optic, the Pioneer is going to go above the SSG 82. But understand that the SSG 82 does do more health and shock damage. Okay, and unfortunately the CR 527, which would have been my favorite pick over these other two, it has to go below the SSG-82. And I know that's a controversy, but like, we just looked at the stats. Okay, so if you don't like the optic, then run one of the other two, but we're here to talk about the stats here, and this gun is better in the ranges that you're going to use it for. It's a huge upset, I know, but this is where we're at. Slot them in. We're going to look at another two guns together. I find that this is often the best way to do it. So we're going to be breaking into the A tier ranks here, looking at both of these two guns. Both of these are going to be A tier. The debate for which is over the other, I'm going to make an argument here. So we're looking at the DayZ and the Mosen. These two are found at a similar point in the game. I would say the DayZ might be even easier to find. The thing is, right, so if we're looking at which is really better, and I think a lot of veteran players probably know this, I feel like the DayZ is better. So at base, the Mosen does like a teeny bit more health and shock, but that's without considering the double shot of the DayZ. And the double shot of the DayZ is pretty reliable, like in the 200 to 300 meter range. And looking at, all of the servers that I've had in the past, that's where most sniping seems to happen. So both of these are one shot to the head, but the DayZ has the ability with that double shot to one shot to the body. And that's kind of huge because it requires you to be a lot less precise. You don't have to worry about the zeroing on your rifle as much. So it's tough. And did you know that the DayZ has better projectile speed than the Mosen? Because it does. It's not by a lot, but it is better. It's like 7% more in total. So the DayZ is actually easier to track targets with, moving on a horizontal plane. So and this is my opinion. You could probably make an argument, but if the argument is any of the points, we're looking at stats here and the raw capability of the weapon. So the DayZ being able to one shot to the chest is kind of nuts. So it's going to go A tier. I'm putting it above the Mosen. Both of these guns, though, if you've got a community server, they come in a variety of colors. So there you go. Okay, our Winchester M70 Tundra. I know this is often in the same conversation as the CR 550 Savannah, and that is true and not true at the same time. So the M70, we're going to put A tier. No, I'm sorry. I have this backwards. M70 needs to go S tier above the CR 550 Savannah. CR 550 Savannah can sit in the top of A tier for now. That's fine. There are reasons. Health damage and shock damage for both of these guns are exactly the same. In fact, most of their stats are identical. At least the first several stats here are. Where the M70 is going to pull ahead is the accuracy stat. The accuracy on the M70 is the second highest accuracy value out of all guns in the entire game. And that's going to matter if you're trying to stretch your ranges out. This is a better gun to shoot at those extreme long ranges. Now, granted, firefights, honestly, firefight, if you can call it that, you're at 800 meters, you're not having a firefight, dude. The person you're shooting at has no clue where you are. And like I said, this is less common, but because these guns are so similar, the accuracy from the M70 is going to help. That's where accuracy really matters, is when you are pushing it out to further ranges, because you'll be affected less by bullet dispersion, meaning your bullets are more likely to go more precisely where you're aiming, as long as you're zeroed appropriately. The other downside to the Savannah is the mag, honestly, because having to find the mag, and then the fact that the CR 550 recoils so hard is not good the farther you are away, because the more your gun recoils, the farther you are away, the more off target you will be, trying to recenter and find your target again after each successive shot. So M70 Tundra, we'll go ahead and that's going to go be our first S tier. And then the CR 550, we'll keep that high A tier. All right, now let's talk about the VSD. The VSD is a DMR and not a sniper. And for the most part, it performs that way in game. But like I said, when we're talking about snipers, we have to consider like the average engagement distance of this kind of shooting. Like, people honestly are going to use snipers within DMR ranges. That's just how it is. I see it all the time. I think most people would agree with that. It doesn't matter if you agree with that or not. It's just the truth. Like, you just don't, you're not wandering around and you're like, oh, I spot someone 1,005 meters away. That's not happening unless you're staking somebody out. Or on like some super rare occasion where you have like really high elevation and you just happen to see a little bit of movement and you zoom in and you go, oh, there's a player there. Maybe I can pick him off, right? So the VSD, I'm gonna put it in S tier. It does not have the damage retention that some of these proper bolt action sniper rifles have. But the advantages of the VSD can't be ignored, because we're talking about the most common sniper fights. Like, we're talking 200, 300 meters, maybe 4. That's the most common engagement distances. And within those distances, this is a phenomenal choice, especially with the new addition of the PSO6 and the ability for this gun to be suppressed and for you to be able to take follow-up shots in silence, depending on your range, right? It could be complete silence depending on your range. It's great. It would be wrong for me to put it in A tier because the bullet velocity is high enough to where we're talking about in those sniper ranges. Like, I don't know. This is a great option. A lot of people compare this to the DMR, which we haven't talked about yet. They're not comparable. Their stats are way different. So they're not even close to the same thing. I understand you're going to use them in the same way, but because fights happen in that, like, let's say 2 to 3 to 400 meter range, you might think the DMR and the VSD are similar because that's the fights you're getting into. But I'm telling you right now, that DMR is a lot different stat-wise. But these are marksman rifles we're talking about, right? But we're calling them sniper rifles, right? Well, they're not. Marksman rifle is a broad term that can encompass the word DMR, the term DMR, but DMR by itself is its own thing, and these are DMRs. So we're gonna put it in S tier. The stats are here. There's not much to talk about. Does it go over the M70? For the average player, okay, so not like super sharpshooter extraordinaire, the VSD is going to be a much more practical choice. I don't know if it goes over. This is tough. So I can't really in good conscience put it over the M70 or under it. The chart is going to show it under it. I want you to understand that I'm telling you this kind of depends on your playstyle and what you are going to do with your rifle. If you want kind of the most sensical option and what most people are going to be better with, it's probably the VSD. If you want to take those longer range shots, the M70 is going to be a better choice because of that super high accuracy stat and the projectile speed being much better too. So understand, I'm calling them a tie, but we're going to put the VSD below the M70 on the chart. And this is going to springboard us right into an interesting conversation, and that is we're up in those top tiers right now. What is the best bolt action long range rifle? What is the best one? Is it the VS89? The devs had to rework the guns in the game so the VS89 could be viable. Prior to their rework, this gun just wasn't picked up at all. It's certainly up there now, but what is the best bolt action? Is it this gun? Let's examine. It's worth noting that both the SV98 and the M70 do the same health and shock damage. The SV98 on paper has a lot of benefits versus the M70, although they are relatively small. So for example, the biggest things that would matter, like the max range is 10% better. Well, that's only 100 meters better in max range. Damage over range, only 8 points better. Damage retention, it's 105 meters better. It's not very noticeable. Projectile speed is not, it's so marginal, it's basically not any better. We're talking 1.95%. So look, and I need to play devil's advocate here. And again, we have to step back and look at, like, just realistically what's going to help you. These differences are pretty marginal. And while on paper, you know, these are statistically small benefits versus the M70, there's one thing that the M70 has that the SV98 does not have. And the thing that the M70 has is much better than what the SV98 has. And that is the optic. So yes, the SV98 has that new optic, but it's a maximum of 10 times zoom. It's a 10 times magnification, where the hunting scope for the M70 is a 12 times magnification. So realistically, the benefits on the SV98 aren't going to help you as much as flat out being able to see your target better. That's how minorly different those benefits are. Having an extra 2 times zoom, so we're talking 10 times versus 12, honestly is probably going to help more players land shots at extreme ranges. And for that, I know the SV98, or God, I always mix up what that's called. I know that was supposed to be the best bolt action in the game, but in all honesty, I think the M70 would serve the broad player base better. Even if you're like a really good marksman, you'd probably favor the M70 anyway for that extra two times zoom. And the fact that honestly the crosshair is easier to shoot with versus the new optic. I'm always going to prefer a crosshair. It's just clean. So I'm going to say the M70 is the best bolt action sniper in the game. It's also worth noting before we move on, just real quick, that the SV98 and the M70 have the exact same accuracy stat. So they are both in the second highest category as far as accuracy goes. There's one gun that usurps them, and we're going to talk about it. So what is the most accurate gun in the game? That's going to go to the most accurate sniper in the game. That's the DMR, boys. I almost don't like this because, again, this gun is what it is. It is a DMR, and it's not a sniper rifle. So I don't know how I feel about it, but it does have the highest accuracy stat in the game. And this is where I think it beats out both the VS or SV98 and the M70. It has higher projectile speed than both of these, which again, I don't really think that makes any sense, because I'm pretty certain it's shorter, but it is what it is. And again, it does 150 shock, 150 health damage, just like the M70, just like the 98. But it's got a 20 round mag, and you can shoot it as fast as you can pull the trigger. I don't like the optic as much for super long range shots, but also again, the DPS on this is extremely high. So overall, in the sniper, you know, the guns people will use as sniper rifles, overall this is the best one, and there's no way around it. I think they were trying to make the SV98 the best one. I still believe it's the M70 as far as, like, if you're taking those super far away shots, the M70, I'm going to stand by that as being the best one. But overall, and in practical use, what actually happens in the game most commonly, the DMR is the best quote unquote sniper rifle. It's a DMR, but whatever. It's the best one. There's not much else to say. So it's going to go S tier. It'll be the top of the top, but I'll say it again. If you just want to do some long range shooting, you're probably going to have a better time with the M70. That's it. All right, some closing notes here. So what am I picking out of everything here? 99% of the time, I'm going to pick up the SVD. Just because, in all honesty, it fills the role the best for the most common engagement distances that you're going to see throughout DayZ, like 200, 300, 400 meters. It's going to serve that role the best. The suppressor is like such a big deal, but it is not the best at shooting at extreme ranges, and that's where people get like the SVD and the DMR confused. Because, like, if you're typically fighting in like 200, 300, 400 meter ranges with both of those guns, they'll feel close to the same. But the SVD does not stretch out to long ranges very well. It has the benefit of being able to shoot semi-auto, so you can get, you know, follow-up shots and still take your targets down. But the further you stretch it out, the starker the difference is between the DMR and the SVD. The DMR is much better at shooting at longer ranges than the SVD is. But for me, especially with the new optic, the PSO6 on the SVD is typically what I run. If I want to run a bolt action, it is the M70. I considered running the SV98 for a while there, especially with the new buffs, but after like examining it on paper, I have to give, you know, the top spot for bolt action to the M70. The thing that surprised me the most about these comparisons was how good the SSG 82 actually is. Like, it just does more health damage than the Pioneer and the CR, which was a complete unknown to me. And like, I get it, the optics for the Pioneer and the CR, those are better optics, but for the ranges, again, for most common engagement distances, a PU scope is totally fine. So like, you can't, the only way like you would choose those other ones after being aware of the stats is that you just really don't like the PU scope. But I don't know. There was a lot of interesting stuff in here today. The tier list doesn't really look a whole lot like I thought it would look. But it's not about my bias, right? It's about, you know, what we can determine on paper. And this is where we landed. I do want to take a moment and say a big thank you to everyone that has joined and subscribed to the channel. I believe we hit 82 or 83 subscribers. I don't know. I'll post it. That's huge for someone who just started making, you know, videos like seriously, like maybe 2 months ago. I don't know, a couple weeks ago. So it, you know, it makes it fun for me to interact with you guys and stuff. And I appreciate you guys being here. If you like this kind of content and this is the first video of mine that you're seeing, go ahead, drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be covering lots of DayZ. I super love this game, and it's kind of just a passion project of mine. Also, for anyone on PlayStation, I have a community server. It is called Official Premium. Search it in the communities tab, all capital letters, Official Premium. We have quite an interesting dynamic going on the server. We have a series of quest lines that's necessary for you to get your hands on the best gear in the game. You got to get a full set of NBC, go to Riffy, find a key, take that key, go to Pavlovo, and then I have a secret hidden toxic zone bunker that you can get into from there. And that'll help you kind of build the story of your character. You know, it's a little more to do than official. The loot is not as easy to get as far as some of the best items in the game. You really have to work for it, but it's a rewarding and fun point-to-point experience. We've also gone ahead and put zombie hordes at some of the more high-tier locations, like tier 4 locations, such as certain areas at Northwest Airfield, Trikesta, and Tizzy. Other than that, plays a lot like official. We do have a lot of unique items in the game, as well as the weapons that are able to accept color variations. We have those as well. It's a lot of fun. I'd love to see you guys over there. I think the Discord's in the poster, but I'll try to put it in the description of this video as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I've done a lot of video tier lists on firearms and guns. I bet you think I'm done. I'm not. I still got more to talk about. We're going to keep rolling with this DayZ hype train, and I will see you guys later.